Hello there, friends. This is Spencer Michaud, and today we're going to be talking about the new moon in the third decan of Sagittarius. Hope that you're having a wonderful Friday afternoon out there. We're heading into a weekend with Mars squared Neptune, so I hope that you're surviving the choppy, watery waters that we're experiencing here today. But yeah, please let me know if you are joining us. Leave me a little note in the chat. Let me know where you're stopping in from. We're going to go an hour and some change today talking about all the details associated with this lunation that's coming up next Friday, a week from today as I'm recording this. We're going to talk about the significations of Sagittarius. We're going to talk about the squares to Saturn and Neptune with this new moon. We're going to talk about Jupiter as the host of both of those sets of planets with Sagittarius and Pisces. Yeah, and then answer any of the questions that you might have and just spend a little bit of time together. So let me know in the chat if you're here. And before we do that, we've got a couple announcements. So welcome all my friends here talking new moon in Sagittarius 3. But you can find me over at spencermichaud.com. I am a professional astrologer, and I have all sorts of offerings for this final part of this year, 2025, and for 2026 moving forward. We might start to make some adjustments for the new year. So if you like some of the offerings that you see, get them while they're good. Get them while they're still hot over there. You can go over on the click on the book now button over at spencermichaud.com. Sign up for a 3-month ahead reading, a year ahead reading, a natal reading. All of those things are ways that you can engage with the stars and kind of make friends with fate, as I like to say. You can also go visit the store at spencermichaud.com, where there's all sorts of webinars where you can learn astrology. You can learn about the decans, something that I love to talk about here on the channel, the 10-degree divisions of the zodiac. Normally we think about the zodiac as 30-degree divisions of 12 signs. And then we have these extra divisions with 10-degree sections to give us 36 different ways of looking at our chart. I also have a series that I did with my beautiful partner, Tanya Andrews, called Dignity and Devotion, where we break down the 7 classical planets in traditional astrology and talk about how to create a devotional practice as well as a magical remediary practice where you can elect different elections to make cool stuff where you're drawing down the energy of the 7 traditional planets. Go check that out as well. And then there's this Stars and Cards webinar I did. If you're into the tarot and you want to know some of the esoteric connections between astrology and tarot, that is a great place to start there as well. Speaking of my beautiful partner, Tanya Andrews, she has a wonderful store called Third Coast Mojo. And right now she has her Merry Mojo 25% off sale going on. So if you have been saving up, you're like, I've been looking at some of this stuff. I've got my eye on some things. This is a great time to take advantage of 25% off. There are custom elected magical planetary oils. There are herbs. There are soaps, all sorts of apothecary goods for you. Go over and support her. She does excellent, excellent work. And I think you'll be very pleased with the production values of Third Coast Mojo. So go check that out. May make great Christmas gifts as well, friends. I also have a newsletter if you would like to know when I'm going live, what the next topics are going to be, what's going on at Third Coast Mojo. I help keep you updated on when new products are launched over there as well. Sign up for that in the description of this video or wherever you are getting your podcast, your Spencer Michaud Astrology podcast. I've been starting a new little thing that maybe people will like it, maybe they won't, I don't know. But I've been adding kind of my favorite song of the week or something that's speaking to me. This week's track was Sweet Disposition by the Temper Trap. And don't expect me to be on the cutting edge of music. I am a little bit of a late adapter. So if you're like, well, that song came out 15 years ago, I'm like, yeah, but I'm hearing it now and it sounds pretty cool and it's really affecting me emotionally. It might be something that aligns with the astrology. It might be just something that I like, but go check out the track of the week at the newsletter as well, my friends. If you want to support the work that I'm doing here today, you can buy me a super chat while I'm live on YouTube. It goes a long way to supporting the work that I do, to keep me doing this work, to be able to support your independent creators so that we can have the time to do all the research and production that goes into these live streams. You can also go over to buymeacoffee.com, which is a patron-like website where you can support the channel in that regard. Yeah, I always appreciate all of your generosity, all of the ways that you've supported the channel. The easiest thing to do today if you want to support the channel is like the video, subscribe. If you're not subscribed, turn on the notification bells, share it with a friend, post it on your social medias. There's some kind of new YouTube thing where you can hype it, I guess you could say. So hype the video, but all of those things are very helpful. So thank you for hanging out with us today. All right, friends. So we are going to be talking about the new moon in Sagittarius III. All right. So we've got a new moon coming up. We had a bunch of planets at the bending of the nodes recently and are moving through the bending of the nodes. We've had the sun go through that transition. We've had Mars recently go through the bending of the nodes. Venus this past week. So the Venusian chapter of that has been unfolding. At this new moon in Sagittarius III, Mercury will be going through that bending of the nodes kind of experience. And really what that means is that these planets are going in a transition from a point of decreasing, of course, the south node, or K2. And in this case, K2, or the south node, is hanging out in Virgo. So we've been decreasing and releasing old forms. Virgo loves to enclose spirit into matter. It also is a sign or a temple that is concerned with process, with how we do things and how we do things most efficiently, effectively, practically, tangibly. So we've been releasing some tangible forms. We've been releasing some tangible processes. We've been releasing our attachments to how we are doing what we do, whatever that is, and starting to move towards the North Node in Pisces, which is a sign that's much more associated with kind of, if you will it is no dream, right? If you visualize it, you can bring it into reality, but you have to kind of let go of the process potentially. You have to say, well, this is my vision. These are my values. This is what I am trying to achieve. And I'm not going to dictate to the universe how it's going to come to me. Because when we do that, sometimes we block a manifestation that may be trying to approach us from the liminal space of the spirit world to manifest here on this physical plane of existence. So a lot of letting go, a lot of trying to take a leap into the unknown, a lot of trying to find out what our real purpose, ethics, and values are. And this new moon in Sagittarius III is going to be continuing that process as we go through these squares between the Sagittarian planets in a fire sign, a desire to take action with our vision, and these water planets in Pisces that are encouraging us to think about what it all means, to dissolve our boundaries between ourselves and the life of our dreams, ourselves and others. But the theme that is really coming to me with all of this is one of sacrifice. These last decans of the mutable signs are the transitions between seasons. The transition in Sagittarius is one from the last decan of fall into the winter, right? The winter season. At the first decan of Capricorn is where we experience our winter solstice, the return of the light. And this is a really important point in the astrological year because it shows us the kind of return of hope, the return of vision, the return of clarity, where the days start to become longer. They're not longer than the night yet, but we're starting to see this ascension, right? This moving away from the old year and towards the new year. And a lot of times we have to tie up a lot of loose ends at the end of the solar year. So this Sagittarius III time of year is really important for getting to the finish line, the slog that we go through to be able to get all of the things, like the tangible things for the year. Like, for example, if you're a business person, right? If you're self-employed or anything like that, you're thinking about, all right, is there any end of the year purchases I need to make for my business because it's the end of a tax season? Do I need to make any charitable donations? Things like that. Is there any loose ends I need to tie up before this new big cycle starts? And a lot of times there's things that we have to do that we don't want to do, that we are compelled to do. We'll talk about the concept of a non-K today, which is the force that compels the Earth to spin on its axis, and it also compels us to the finish line. So we will talk about those sort of themes today as well. So, hey, we've got some friends stopping in. Leanne's here. Nice to see you, Leanne. Say hi, Spencer. Hope everyone's having a good week. Hope you're having a good week, Leanne. Thank you for joining us from, I believe, the UK. So hope that you're doing well over there, my friend. Cosmic Girl 101 is here. What's up, Cosmic Girl? Nice to see you. I believe Cosmic Girl is joining us from Australia. So welcome from down under over there, and appreciate you being here today. All right. So, new moon, 28 degrees of Sagittarius, the 19th of December, which is a week from today, Friday the 19th, early in the morning in my time zone, but make the appropriate adjustment for yours. And let's just think about, given you my initial thoughts. Here are some thoughts that are a little bit more medium range view. So the new moon is going to be squared Saturn and Neptune. We've got Saturn and Neptune hanging out, and I'll break all of this down in great detail and show you the chart in a second, but I just want to talk about it. Saturn and Neptune making a square to the new moon. Saturn's at 25 degrees of Pisces, Neptune's at 29. Neptune is getting ready to ingress into Aries, which is kind of a big deal because Neptune ingresses into a new sign once every couple decades. So this is a big change that we might experience in our collective. And Neptune often represents sort of a solvent quality. It dissolves structures, it dissolves boundaries. I've been reading a book by Liz Green talking about Neptune and the search for redemption. She talks about different myths from different cultures where we might be seeking to return to a divine cosmic womb. There's lots of oceanic themes, like creative waters themes that come out of this. There's also themes of, trying to pursue some cosmic or divine ideal that isn't necessarily attainable in this physical space. So we have to be careful of that. Those are some of the illusions and delusions that we experience with Neptune. As I'm recording this today, Mars is applying to a square with Neptune. And we've been getting some weird water themes coming up. Like, we got a notification from our water municipality about a potential water main breaking, and that we might have to boil our water for the next 24 hours, and they were going to shut the water off. And then, so this was in the middle of my morning routine, which is fairly fairly it's fairly lengthy. It's one of those things that I try to stay really consistent with over time. Like, I do my prayers and stretching and all of these things. And as I was getting this text, my partner was like, "You need to fill up a bunch of buckets with water so we have water to fill the toilet," and all these things. I'm like, okay. So I'm running around filling water buckets, big tubs of water. And then we got another message from the municipality a few minutes after I had finished doing all of those tasks and say, "Oh, sorry, it was actually for just this one street in your town, and we mistakenly said it was for the whole town." So those are the kind of experiences you get with Neptune. I mean, water is often involved. If it's a square, sometimes there's confusion that's going on. Neptune tends to dissolve the energy of the planet that it is contacting. So Mars is sometimes our willpower, our ability to fight through obstacles. And we may all be just feeling a little bit tired right now. I know I am. I'm feeling a little exhausted. We're trying to get to the finish line, and it's all a little up in the air and chaotic. Also, another water theme that I thought was interesting. I know this is I have a Virgo stellium, so bear with me with the mundane house stuff, but we have a stopper in our toilet. You have a little stopper that lets the water go up and down in the toilet tank. And the toilet wasn't flushing. This was right after I'd filled all these buckets. And I opened up the tank and saw that the toilet stopper was kind of disintegrated. It's like, what the hell's going on? It's just so it's interesting to see all of these issues come up with water with Mars, and and Neptune in that regard. So long story short, with this new moon that's coming up, you may also start to see some themes that are very literally related to water, since Saturn and Neptune are in Pisces. It's not going to be the Mars square necessarily, but it's going to be the lights are going to be squaring Neptune, the moon and the sun, and Venus is going to start moving into a square. So topics associated with the solar energy, the Leo topics in our life that the sun is responsible for hosting, the lunar energy in our life, the Cancer topic in your chart, and then the Venus topics, Libra and Taurus, because those planets are sort of like stewards of those temples, those lands. Each of the 12 houses in your chart is associated with a different like slice of life, a different topic in life. And when you are looking at the planet that hosts those topics, sometimes those particular issues can crop up for you. So let's say I'm just looking at this arbitrary Leo rising chart. For the Sun Saturn or Sun Neptune square, it might be a first house issue related to the body, related to a sense of identity. When the Venus squares the Saturn and Neptune arrangement, you might be experiencing things with a third house and a 10th house issue. Your public face, your local community, your daily habits and routines associated with the third house. So all of those things could be going through a confusing kind of melting or disintegration and a need to rebuild when we get to January with the Cazimis in Capricorn. So that's one piece of this. And we've got some more friends stopping in that I want to welcome. Leanne says, you have such a good memory. I try to. I have a little bit of a sticky Cancerian memory for certain things. I have like little areas of genius with my memory and then other areas where I can't remember anything. I do remember people and places and like little details about their charts really well. If you ask me to remember a song lyric, I have real difficulty with that sometimes. But I remember the melodies really well. It's just the lyrics I get jumbled in my head because it's more of a feeling rather than something that is tangible. Javiera is here. Says hi. Hola. Hope everyone is well. Nice to see you, Javiera. Hope you're doing well. Yes. Javier says my Virgo moon is excited with the conversation. Yes, all of the toilet maintenance, like water pipe stuff. Yeah, for us Virgo types, it's probably, it's relatable, right? Javier says I've got all this Sagittarius action firing off in the 12th. Well, we'll try to break it down for you and try to make sure that we guide you in the right direction. But the 12th house, asking for some rest, right? Some peace, some solitude, and being able to get that at this new moon should be important for you. Okay, so we talked about the new moon squared Saturn and Neptune. Now we also, and we might as well just put the chart up here. Might as well just put it up, right? I know it's not going to be super big, but you could see, now you could see here, here's the new moon, 28 degrees of Sagittarius. You've got the Saturn and Neptune square happening between those two places. And a couple other features of this new moon, Mercury at the bending of the nodes. So here we have Mercury at 10 degrees of Sagittarius, okay? And it is going to be squaring the north node at 11 degrees Pisces and the south node at 11 degrees Virgo. So we talked about this a little bit earlier, but this is a big, this is a big turning point for Mercury. And if we think about what Mercury represents, Mercury is a go-between. It is a planet of commerce. It's a planet of liminal spaces. It's a planet that talks about exchanges, like going from one place to the next. It talks about communication. That's an exchange of information. So our ability to make exchanges is going to be going through this period where we're coming to like the valley. Like think about we're on a journey. Let's use Lord of the Rings, right? Let's think about where we've started walking on our journey with our fellowship, and we've come to the place where we've got to go down into the mines of Moria, the depths, the lowest place we're going to be. Maybe we've lost Gandalf along the way, and now we're coming out of Moria and we're starting to ascend again. If you think about these planets at the south bending, it's like we're deep in the depths of Moria. We're at the deepest point. There's only the only direction to go is up, right? And that's good news to me because we might be feeling pretty burnt out, pretty tired. We've had to go through a lot of release. We've had to go through a lot of letting go. And now we get to start to move towards visualizing what we want to increase next. I know that I've been telling this story about my own family's experience with these bending of the nodes, but my own family's going through like an employment transition. My beautiful partner Tanya of Third Coast Mojo had a day job, and due to a budget cut, she's been laid off from her job. Today is actually her last day as Venus is going through the bending of the nodes. Funnily enough, Venus is the ruler of her 10th house. So this is the low point for a career or a public facing type of thing, but there's nowhere to go but up, right? And as difficult as the releasing process has been, there's a little glimmer and sliver of hope that comes with some of that freedom. Now, freedom can be, if we use song lyrics, I do remember a few every once in a while. The cliche is freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose, right? And this is what K2 said. Well, I've stripped everything from you. This was the year of the snake, which K2 is a snake without a head, right? Of the body of the snake. I've stripped off the old skin, and now you're just this fresh baby snake that needs to figure out where to slither to next. And that can be a little confusing at first. And I think that this new moon in Sagittarius, we might be a little bit confused because we've had some things taken away from us. We've had some old forms and some old ways of doing things be shown that it's not going to work anymore. What was once the right process, what was once the right form, the right job, the right routine, the right relationship, whatever it is, based on your chart, right? It's got to change, and it's not going to work the same anymore. We're stepping into a new era, a new eon, a new cycle. Okay, especially because we are going to be seeing some pretty big movements with outer planets, especially with Saturn moving into Aries and Neptune moving into Aries. And that's going to be happening in the beginning of 2026. In the shorter term, we've got Venus and Mars making that renewal in the heart of the sun in early January, but lots of new cycles coming. So look to the Gemini and the Virgo area of your chart for what Mercury is trying to teach you at this point. Mercury at that low point, right? And then how can you visualize what you want to come next? A couple other things. Venus and Mercury are going to be co-present with the lunation. You can see here, we've got Venus here and Mercury. Venus is not necessarily in a place that it likes or dislikes. It's fairly neutral in Sagittarius. Mercury, though, is in its exile. Mercury is in a place where it's not super comfortable to be able to carry out its desires, which is oftentimes is trying to analyze data. It's very detailed orientated, gather new information, split things into categories. What Mercury will tend to do in the Jupiter-ruled signs of Sagittarius and Pisces is it will tend to mash things into a trough and say, this is good enough. I just want to move towards the goal. I don't want to ask any more questions. I need to make declarative statements. That can be good in some circumstances. It can get us into a lot of trouble in other circumstances where we need to be good listeners, where we need to ask a lot of questions. So be careful about making declarative statements that are not necessarily backed up by the proper amount of research. Be careful about I don't know, just moving too quickly, right? I think that oftentimes Sagittarius energy it moves fast. It's like, okay, all the trees are off all the leaves are off the trees. We can see blue sky ahead of us, and we just want to shoot these arrows and try to hit whatever target that we're aiming for. But I think what Mercury can help us do is to refine our aim a little bit, because if we don't take the time to properly aim and to stabilize our footing, to be able to calm and center ourselves before we release that arrow, we might miss the mark. And you may only get a couple shots at it. So you want to make sure that you're taking your time with this. The Venus part is going to, I think, smooth things a little bit. The only issue I see with Venus and the other issue, I guess you could say, with Venus there and Mercury is that they're both under the beams of the sun. That is somewhat of a debilitating condition in traditional astrology. It means that they are too close to the solar king, and in some of the mythological way of looking at it, they're kind of getting burned up a little bit. They're also invisible. So a lot of the things that we're going through are behind the scenes. And we may be wanting some visible manifestation of the work that we're doing, but that might not be available yet. Doesn't mean it won't be eventually, but it's not quite available in this moment. So this is another moment that is requiring faith, is requiring being able to hold on to something that we can't yet see. And I think that's sort of the essence of faith, being able to believe in something that isn't tangible yet, that is more of an idea or an ideal, and being able to hold fast to that belief and unwaveringly commit to it. So this is sort of what Venus and Mercury are asking of us on some level here. The other things to consider, Mars and the moon are going to be out of bounds for this lunation. Now, out of bounds is a condition of these planets where they are moving outside the normal declination path of the sun. There's this kind of imaginary line over the horizon that the sun moves across every day over the course of a year. It rises a little bit higher as the days are increasing. It rises a little bit lower as the night is increasing, right? After the summer solstice. And when these planets go outside of that normal path of the sun, they're sort of like maverick planets, and they're operating under their own authority rather than the authority of the solar ruler. So really what we see with these planets out of bounds is a lot of abnormal risk taking with Mars potentially. Maybe we're getting pretty upset about certain things that might not bother us otherwise, with anger that is not necessarily conforming to the socially acceptable anger. When the moon's out of bounds, it could be that our bodies are feeling a little bit pushed to their limits. Maybe we're having memories, like moon is associated with memory as well as Mercury. So these planets can be bringing us a lot of emotions. Our emotions could be wildly swinging. So I guess my advice with Moon and Mars out of bounds is, especially with Mars, have your steam valves. Take a 10 count before you pop off in a Mercury and Sagittarius type way. I would also say that if there are certain things that you do need to cut out of your life, you may be able to do so more effectively with Mars out of bounds. You might be hesitant to do so in other situations, but with this particular arrangement, it may be easier to do that. With the moon out of bounds, this happens fairly regularly. This isn't something to get too concerned about. This happens 3 or 4 times a month. But during those times, taking it easy, like practicing your self-care, all those things can be very helpful. All right, so those are sort of our kind of extra pieces of this that I can see. We'll talk a little bit about the sun and moon in Sagittarius III in a second. I want to check in with the chat, see how all of you are doing. All right, let's see here. Poor Saturn, Neptune, Javier says I'm the baby snake. It is confusing, right? Mercury has been elbowing me daily since entering Sagittarius, and it's retrograde. Yeah, I think on some level, we're all baby snakes right now. We're all kind of shedding our skin and going through this release process. Javier, my partner is a Chinese Year of the Snake person. And so she was born in the Year of the Snake. I don't know if you were born in the Year of the Snake, Javiera, but so she's feeling this really acutely, like with shedding an identity that she was very, I don't know, pretty attached to, right? I think if you're somebody who takes a lot of pride in their work and their job, as a Capricorn rising, work can be even more important. our public roles. And when those are shifting, it can be very, very confusing, and it can feel like a death, right? A little death. So yeah, so Javier is also the year of the snake with 1989, right? So yeah, she's the 77 one, and you're the 89 one. So the Chinese animals repeat every 12 years. So if you have your personal Chinese zodiac year animal, if you go just 12 years before or after that, you'll see it repeat with different elements involved. But I digress. Yeah, and Javier is also Capricorn rising. So the two of you, as Chinese snakes and Cap risings, are probably going through some significant changes. So I think that the thing about this is, and I've been kind of feeling the narrative unfold with this for a few months. I always saw December as a period of visioning. There's not going to be necessarily the ripe opportunity for making all of the tangible new starts yet. There is a need to fully go through the letting go process. The grand water trine with all the planets going through Scorpio 3, right? And trining Saturn, Neptune, Jupiter, etc. Those were showing us which forms we needed to get rid of, which ones were just no longer bringing us vitality. And the longer we held on to those, the more suffering we might experience, right? The more debauchery we might try to do or have done to us to justify keeping the old form alive. And as we've seen all these planets leave Scorpio and enter Sagittarius, then they all move into the squares with the Pisces planets. And again, Sagittarius planets want to move towards a goal. They want to take action based on their experience. When they run into a square with the Pisces stuff, the actions are, it's like trying to run underwater, right? Think of like a horse that, oh my God, this is like the image that's coming up to me. But this is going to traumatize the 80s kids. Remember like Artax from The Never-Ending Story, right? Where we had to watch that horse like sink into the quicksand and like all the trauma that was associated with that. Like, I think it was our first, one of our first experience with like the slow, painful death kind of experience. But that's kind of sort of what it feels like with the squares with Sagittarius and Pisces. Is we're trying to run, we're trying to move, but there's this force that's sucking us under, and it's very difficult to figure out how to get running again. But there's a happy ending with all of that, I believe. If my memory is, maybe I blocked out the bad part. Maybe there's not a happy ending. But in our case, there is, because the world keeps on spinning, and we're not going to get stuck in there forever, right? And but I do think that the slowing down process, the horse stuck in the mud or in the ocean that can't run as fast as if we were on solid ground, it causes us to be more conscientious. It causes us to understand where we're going and to conserve our energy. And once we get past the Sagittarian season, man, that Capricorn season is going to be really ripe with interesting new starts. So I think that's the main advice I can give you with all this, friends. Find out what is meaningful to you. I started reading, I don't have it here because it's in the other room, but I started reading some Charles Eisenstein books. This is not the one. This one's called The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible. And the other one is called Sacred Economics. And I've been doing a lot of thinking about new ways of material exchange that are ethical, that are just, how to create abundance in a way that is not going to diminish other people. His book is a lot about the history of economics, but also of gift economies, of indigenous wisdom and things of that nature. So that's been my homework. That's what I've been inspired to do. And we'll see that with the host of this new moon in Cancer 3. So find out your why. What is important and meaningful to you? Let's see. Javier says, it's pretty amazing though. Yes, hard, but it's liberating and transformative. It's exciting and cleansing. Yes, greatly needed. Yeah. And that's the thing. A lot of times we're like the frog in the boiling water, right? We know that a situation is starting to become uncomfortable, but we don't know how to get out of the pot. And before we get out, it's kind of too late sometimes. So this is us just taking the leap, right? Or really the metaphor is the pot's getting dumped out before we boil to death, right? In a situation that isn't right for us. Leanne says, if a planet is out of bounds in your natal chart, does a transit of that planet going out of bounds tend to amplify things? That's a great question, Leanne. I would probably tend to say yes. I think that any planet that is getting contacted in your natal chart by a similarly conditioned planet in the outer transits would bring some of those themes to the fore, right? So, like, for example, let's play this out in a couple different ways. You might have an out of bounds planet, Leanne, and let's say it's Venus, and then Venus out of bounds can be an attraction to non-traditional relationships. And if Venus is out of bounds by transit, everybody's kind of going through that, and they're kind of on your wavelength. Sometimes I feel like when we have a special condition in the chart, like an out of bounds or a retrograde planet, when that particular planet is doing the same thing in the sky, it feels like we're not the weird ones anymore. I experience this with Mercury retrograde. I have Mercury retrograde in my chart, and when Mercury retrogrades, I don't necessarily feel as put out by it as a lot of people do, because I'm like, oh, you mean everybody is being a little bit more reflective and thinking about their words before they speak, or being able to go and review all sorts of things before making decisions. Wow, that's kind of nice to be in that wavelength. So yeah, I think that's a definitely an amplification kind of experience for sure. And here's the thing, Leanne, the end of December, we're going to have 4 planets moving out of bounds. We're going to have Mars out of bounds, which is a longer term influence. Mars is out of bounds from November 27th to the 3rd of January. Okay. We have Venus out of bounds from December 20th to January 3rd. And then Mercury is going to be out of bounds from the 28th to the 15th, 28th of December to January 15th. And then the moon from the 30th to the 4th. So that's like all of these planets are not acting within the socially acceptable way. So there may be a lot of new risk taking that we see happening, or a lot of people just acting out of character. But maybe we need that. Maybe we need to shake up our routines and ruts, etc. Maybe this is helping us to move forward into the new, whatever the new story is or the new narrative. Okay. So let's start talking a little bit about the sun and moon in Sagittarius III. Okay. So here's my Deccan flashcard for this. Put these together when I was doing my Deccan's webinars to give you a little bit of a study tool. When you purchase the Deccan webinars, you also get these digital Deccan flashcards. My beautiful daughter, Sophie, has been encouraging me to make these into tangible, drop shippable things. So maybe those will be coming in the year ahead. But yes, there's all sorts of information on here that can help us to understand with much more specificity what we might be experiencing with a planet moving through a different area of the zodiac. So Sagittarius III, it is syncretized with the 10 of Wands. Here we see somebody that is carrying a great heavy burden, and he doesn't exactly know where he's going. He's just compelled to carry it to the finish line. Maybe he does know where he's going, but maybe it's more intuitive, right? Maybe it's, I know I've got to get to this ending here. This is a Decan that I was touching on in the very beginning of the show, where it's one of the final mutable decans, right? The last mutable decans in the mutable signs, Sagittarius, Virgo, Pisces, Gemini, are all transitions from one seasonal experience to the next, to the next cardinal sign. In this case, we're trying to get to the cardinal sign of Capricorn, which is associated with the winter solstice and the return of the light. There are different rulers for each of these planetary decans, okay? And we have The whole sign of Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, where we are trying to bring all the elements together, body and spirit together, to reach a specific goal, to act on our beliefs. Well, this part of Sagittarius, between 20 degrees Sagittarius and the beginning of Capricorn, is ruled secondarily by Saturn. It's a Saturn-ruled phase. So this is the hard work part of Sagittarius. We had a Mercury decan in Sagittarius 1. Okay, I'll just show you here. Here's the Mercury phase, so the communication phase, the questioning phase, the movement phase. Here we have the lunar decan, where we are trying to unify body and spirit to get to the end of the goal. And then now we have the Saturn part, where it says, well, you've made this decision, you've decided where you want to go. Now you've got to carry that vision to the end through hard work, through just, I don't know, like through the burden of your belief. This is sort of the, I'm going to push myself beyond my limits to get to the finish line. Austin Coppock calls it a horse's skull. The book T in the Book of Thoth calls it the Lord of Oppression. And of course, we have that daimon or spirit, Ananke, the force that causes the earth to spin on its axis, or on its spindle, I guess you could say. Ananke is also a word for the type of fate that we create for ourselves through our ignorance, through just going through the motions. So another thing to think about with this decan is, are we just going through the motions? Like, are we creating things due to our ignorance? Saturn is often associated with blindness, with darkness. So we don't want to make sure that we want to make sure that we're not blindly going and just going in a direction that isn't good for us, right? The horse's skull part of it, of course, we've got the centaur, half horse, half person. And this is really the pushing the body past the limits. I often make a referral to my beautiful partner, Tanya Andrews of Third Coast Mojo, because she has the sun in this decan. You can wish her a happy birthday on December the 20th. It'll be a big one, a big first house perfection year for her. So launching off into a new journey. Go support her at Third Coast Mojo. She's going through a big transition right now, and I think the support that she receives at Third Coast Mojo, I think, will be really helpful around this period. So if you have the means to do so, go get yourself some nice stuff over there. But what I've noticed with her is, first of all, she's a tough, strong, resilient person. And when she sets her mind to something, she is unstoppable. And sometimes to the point where I have to say, hey, you kind of need to stop and go rest, right? And this is really the Sagittarius III energy, where we can't stop. We feel so responsible for something in our lives. The Saturn responsibility, we feel so bound to it. We say, I have to do this, or something bad's going to happen, right? Or I have to do this so that I can make something good happen. It is almost like there's no choice in it. Tanya was a championship level cross country runner in high school and into college. And one of the things that she talked about with her, the way that she was able to create success, was she had an unearthly ability to endure pain. And so it's not that she was enjoying it. She was just like, I just kept going. I had to keep going and going and going, to the point where I just blew out my shins and feet with plantar fasciitis and things of that nature. But it helped me to sustain a pace over a long distance. And that's kind of the energy with Sagittarius III too, is we're like cross-country runners. We're distance runners, where if you've ever done a distance race, the last few miles of that race, your body is like, it's hurting, you know, things hurt, you want to be done, but you start to see the familiarity of the finish line. You know, you've only got a couple more to go. Maybe that runner's high has started to kick in, and you know that if you just keep going and push it to the very last little, with a last little energy, that you can get to that finish line and you can rest again. So this is the energy we have with this decan, with this new moon. We're planting the seed for that energy that's going to get us across the finish line to finally shed the last part of our skin so that we can be ready for the renewal in 2026. Okay, we've got some more friends stopping in. So let's take a look at that, see where we're at here. Javier says, oh man, I heard the word risky. Ouch, just need to relax. I'm not a huge fan of risk either, Javier. I think folks on the Capricorn Cancer axis, we're not thrilled about taking risks. Some people might be with different planets in their chart. If you got some Aries placements or maybe even some Sagittarius or Leo stuff, some fiery stuff, you might be more of a risk taker. But for those of us in these cardinal earth and water and other earth signs, risks are not necessarily our favorite thing in the world. But we may have to take some risks moving forward with Saturn moving into Aries. It's not really going to be a choice. It's either take a risk and become something new, or just, I don't know, suffer the consequences of not doing it, right? I guess that would be the thing. There's really no choice with it. Marietta is here, says, good noonday, Spencer. I hope your week has been wonderful. It's been pretty all right, Marietta. It's been a little exhausting. I've been doing a lot of snow removal, I guess is what I will say. I've been clearing out our parking lot, which is quite extensive, with a snow blower. And there's been really wet, heavy snow that is just a real pain in the ass to get through. And it comes down one day after another. So I think I had to do the snowblower thing like 3 days out of this week. I'm glad I have the snowblower, and I'm glad that I have just a beautiful home to take care of. But at the same time, I could use a rest from the elements. I think that's the long answer. Love It Moon is here. What's up, Love It Moon? Says, hi, everyone. Signing in from Scotland. Oh, nice. I love that you're here, Love It Moon. And thank you for joining us from Bonnie, Scotland, my friend. Stephen the Jupiterian says, Sagittarius new moon closely conjoins my natal moon in the first house. Well, that's going to be an important placement for you, Stephen. You'll have to let us know how it turns out for you. Marietta says, everybody watching, can you like the stream, please? Thank you for that, Marietta. Yes, Spencer does so much work for us and gives it to us free out of his big golden heart. The least we can do is like and share. I appreciate that, friend. I'm doing the best that I can, trying to share this wisdom and make it available to the most amount of people possible. I will say, moving into the new year, I've been doing research on how to monetize the channel, but still keeping the spirit of having it be available to the most amount of people. So these are the things that I've been thinking about with the change of transition and in our family. But yes, the easiest thing to do, friends, like the video, subscribe to the channel. It really does help. It helps get our message out in front of the most amount of people. And yes, I think, Marietta, you can thank our beautiful Tanya Andrews for a lot of the ability to do this work in the past, the way that I've done it and the way that I've been able to stay true to some of my values. A lot of it was because of Tanya's situation and work too. So she deserves a lot of that credit as well. All right. Marietta says, hope everyone's having a wonderful Friday morning here in San Francisco. All right. Javier says, I've been getting a lot of downloads with centaurs lately, all through Mercury and Sag. I love it. Marietta says, happy birthday, Tanya. May your exuberant beauty remain radiant. Oh, I love that. Yep, Tanya's going to have a birthday on December the 20th, right before this new moon in Sagittarius. So yeah, everybody give her her flowers. All right, Central Illinois. Ooh, nice. I was born in Illinois. I'm a Oak Park, Illinois native, and spent some time in Rockford, growing up in Rockford, Illinois, and did some traveling around that area. Leanne says, having a great Friday, nearly 7 p.m. in the UK. Oh my goodness. So yes, we have, it's so interesting to see that we're going through life at these completely different time zones on this planet, that we're able to connect. Isn't that a miracle? It's just such an amazing experience we have, just literally being in different points in time. We're like time traveling with the internet. It's pretty cool, pretty awesome. All right, okay, let's see. Steven says, I love the game of Risk, world domination. Well, better the game of Risk than the games that some of our leaders want to play with real people's lives. So we'll have to see how that all turns out, friend. Javier says, hope there's people near the finish line with a cup of water. I'm thirsty. And yes, Venus and Mars and Cancer doesn't like risk. Absolutely. Maria says, thank you, Tanya. Oh, I love that, Maria. Thank you for acknowledging her and a lot of the hard work that she does and that we do as a team. I mean, really, Tanya and I are a team, and a lot of the things that we do are we are talking all of these things out to figure out what the best way to move forward with our communities are. She makes things possible for me. I help her with things. There's all sorts of ways that's a reciprocal relationship. And I hope that as we move into this new employment situation, we're going to be spending a lot more time together. So maybe you'll see her on the channel a little bit more. And I think we're going to try to do some more things where we maybe take some risks with our businesses and try to provide different types of value for our community and figure out what the right balance of being sharing with the community and making the information available and figuring out what our value proposition is as well. Marietta says, I know Rockford. Yeah, it's a cool little place. Spent the first 13 to 14 years of my life over there and then moved to Michigan. Marietta, you're so fun. Says, yay, love to see more of Tanya. You guys are the dream team. I love it. She's a great lady. I'm hyping her up today because this is a tough day for her friends, and even though it is a beautiful, I don't know, freedom that comes along with that, there's also a lot of anxiety that comes with those changes, and she's a real nice lady, and I think got a really pure heart. So all of the good comments in the chat here for her, she really deserves it, and I really appreciate that, friends. Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about this host, Cancer 3. What do you say? So let's talk about Jupiter in Cancer. By the way, I can't stop talking about my lovely partner. She also has Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, not the third decan, but the first decan. And these Jupiter and Cancer types are some pretty amazing people. I was reading an article from another wonderful magical business, Sphere and Sundry. They were talking about Jupiter and Cancer election, and Austin himself has Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, and Rob Hand, one of the translators in Project Hindsight, the people that helped us acquire all this knowledge of traditional Hellenistic astrology, and also Diana Rose Harper, an excellent astrologer who's kind of in the next generation in the up and coming world of astrology. So some really interesting people with this placement. So what are we looking at when we have Jupiter retrograde in Cancer 3? First of all, it's an aversion to the new moon. So this is a place that it is having difficulty making the communication with Sagittarius, although I wonder, this is just a thought. This is not anything that I've done any research on, but there is a concept in Hellenistic astrology called lichen girding. And that is when a planet is in one of its own domiciles and able to have a secret line of communication with the houses that it rules. Okay, so, or with the planet that is in its home. Maybe I'm just thinking of this in a roundabout weird way. But my thought process was, well, if Jupiter is in its exaltation, a place that it likes to be in, is there that secret, almost lichen girding type of relationship? Maybe. I don't have a definitive answer, but I would like to ask the question. What are we looking at with Jupiter in Cancer? What does Jupiter like to do in Cancer? Well, first of all, Jupiter is also known as Zeus, okay? In the Greek tradition, Jupiter being the Roman name for Zeus. And Zeus in mythology is a figure who begets many, many children, right? He's very fertile. This is one of the reasons Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. Cancer is a very fertile sign. So we have the right conditions for that fertility. Now, one other little thing that I've been researching is the concept that we saw in Jyotisha, or Vedic astrology, Eastern astrology, where a retrograde planet in its exaltation or fall will tend to act in the opposite sign manner. So because we have an exalted planet, Jupiter, retrograde in Cancer, it might be acting a little bit like Jupiter in its fall in Capricorn, which pretty interesting, right? The direct motion of Jupiter in Cancer 3 is a planet that is trying to create abundance, create fertility, bring form, beget form, right? Well, the relationship between Saturn and Jupiter, according to ancient authors and technique I've learned from the 7 traditional planets, or 7 classical planets book by Charles Obert, really good little reference guide, by the way, is Saturn is sort of the architectural blueprint. It's the idealized Platonic form. It's the if we're using our horse metaphor, it's the ideal horse. It has 4 legs. It has, a big snout, a mane, teeth, etc. And the Jupiter part and role is to be able to take that idealized, more general form and make the multiplicity of physical manifestations, the palomino, the small pony, the big Clydesdale, all of the different forms, begetting all of those into form. So right now, we have Jupiter sort of reviewing how to do that. It says, well, I want to create abundance, I want to create fertility, but there's a lot of maybe delays to that with Jupiter retrograde. There's maybe some setbacks, like when we shed our skin, that can feel like a setback. We're having to release the way that we created prosperity and fertility in the past. If I just keep utilizing my own example, being able to bring in resources via one particular job, when that starts to fade away, you're asking a lot of questions about, well, what are our next ways to support our family or to pay our bills, etc. How does it align with our value system? How is this going to look moving forward? What's the structure of our day? All of these things. It's all up for review. So this is another reason that I think this new moon is not necessarily one where we're going to be just launching every new enterprise. This is one where we're going to be asking a lot of questions about what is meaningful to us. How do we create the win-win situation? How do we create fertility and abundance in a way that is Jupiterian, the way that is potentially ethical, that will bring us honor and merit rather than taking from someone else, where we're feeling like we're adding value to the exchanges rather than taking away something from somebody. So like these are the thoughts I've been having about the new movement into the next cycle for this channel, is how do we create extra value so that that I can create value to help ease the burden of my partner's, job loss, right? And how do I do that in a way that is appropriate for being able to continue to share this wisdom with everyone that wants to engage with it? How do I do it in a way that doesn't take away or like make people feel like there is a boundary to acquiring or achieving that? And those are the questions, the types of questions that you might be asking yourself too, is did you release an old form? And now how are you able to replace that in a way that is going to be in alignment with your true self? When I think about my partner and her going through this transition and us going through this transition as a family, I just think about how much potential there is in not only her, but in our relationship, etc. And how the freedom that she may be experiencing could lead to some incredible creative manifestations. And this might be a way to look at this lunation and this water trine moving into the squares, then moving into the Capricorn manifestation phases. How do you work with this new freedom, this new potential, this new liberation of energy that you're finding from the release of the old forms? Sometimes we go along with things because it's safe. We've been talking about risk taking here in the channel today. as we get older, and this is not true for everyone. This is not a blanket statement, but sometimes when we get older, we we feel a little bit less risk averse because we have a little bit less energy. Maybe it's harder to learn or make adjustments because we've been doing things the same way for so long. And oftentimes we want to conserve our security over our curiosity or things of that nature. And it's it can be really disruptive to be forced into those changes. It can also be really invigorating, right? Sometimes when we get really in this kind of these ruts in our life, the universe has a way of saying, you can do more, right? And I don't mean more. I mean more like more in alignment with who you really are, right? And sometimes we get used to these old roles that weren't really appropriate for us, but uh, we did it out of necessity. We did it out of commitment. We did it out of wanting to be of service. And sometimes those old roles were really appropriate at one time in our life, and they did bring us that vitality. But things change. And that's what we're dealing with here is change, right? How do we align ourselves with change rather than resist it? I mean, this is the type of thing that spiritual mystics, self-help people, all of anyone who is paying attention to life eventually comes to the realization that one of the most important things in life is to be able to work with change rather than resist it. And the more that we resist change, the more suffering that we experience. So this is one of those points where we're going to be going through that. Now, specifically with the third deck in Cancer, you see the Four of Cups. And it's called the Lord of Luxury, the Lord of Blended Pleasure in the Book of Thoth and Book T. Austin calls it the Overflowing Cup in 36 Faces. And we have a spirit in this deck in Hecate or Hecate, however you want to pronounce that. An important goddess of the crossroads, an important turning point, right? And she is a triple moon goddess, a lunar goddess, and this is a lunar face. This is a very lunar part of the zodiac. And she both gives life and light and takes it away. So this is where we get the Hecate part of it is very interesting because it helps us to understand that sometimes an increase for one can feel like a decrease for an other, right? What I have experienced having Mercury in this deck in natally retrograde is a lot of my thoughts go to a lot of questions and doubt and like all of the things that sometimes destabilize us can be seen through our Mercury placement. But a lot of my thoughts go to how do I work in the world without hurting other people, without taking away from other people? How do I benefit without creating hardship for someone else? And a lot of this came through my own experience as a young person, having both experiences of scarcity and of surplus. My mom's family had a lot of they had wealth, but it was what I would like to call new money, where they really just kind of were so scared of being poor that they just did all sorts of things that I didn't agree with to perpetuate their wealth because they're afraid of being poor. My grandfather had a business that he inherited in Chicago. Speaking of Illinois, it was like a corrugated cardboard factory, and he kind of ran it into the ground through family expense accounts and all these like corrupt things that you see sometimes in business and in America. And I witnessed this as a teenager and just really was off put by it, and it tore our family apart. So that was one of the things that formulated my view of like, oh, these wealthy people got wealthy because they hurt other people. And that was something that has been ingrained as a narrative in my mind that I've had to work through as an adult to try to change that narrative. It's not an easy one to do, especially when it's ingrained from birth, because my father's family is very frugal. They are very like They come from Mennonite ancestry. So you can only imagine, passed down through the generations, the desire for frugality, the desire for thrift, right? And those two energies coming together and constantly battling with one another. And I think that this is a thing that we see quite often when you have important placements in Cancer 3. If you have Mars or Saturn here, you might have some really difficult experiences in your youth that when someone else benefits, it's at your expense, or vice versa. If you have Jupiter here, you might be really good at creating win-win situations. You might be the proverbial philanthropist. You might be someone who has more than they need and is very generous with their resources. Same potentially with Venus. You might really be able to get what you want very easily. It might just come to you. The other part of this decan is that it is one of luxury, right? It is one of expensive tastes. I will admit that my mother liked to go out to eat. I used to visit her, just as she was the non-custodial parent, and sometimes when I visited her, she would just take us out to eat. So, but she had a really kind of refined palate and trained me to be like, oh, this is what food is like. These kind of refined, restaurant experiences. Which I'm grateful for on some level, and I'm lucky to have manifested a partner who is an excellent chef and also has, I think, the ability to bring those types of visions into reality. But that was kind of the interesting part about it. And my mom had Mars in this 10-degree section of Cancer, and a lot of her experience with her parents was just the fighting of over resources. Her and her siblings, they were just trained to compete with one another for their parents' love. In that family, love equaled money. Or, it was a really toxic way of viewing the world. And even to the point where it bled into their deaths even. There was at one point, my mom passed away before my grandfather, about a month before my grandfather. And that meant that I became the next in line for one of the 3 inheritances from him. But what happened in that family, this is what's so screwed up about it. My aunt actually had the will changed so that she became the only inheritor of his estate while he had dementia. And that's the kind of things that these people do. And instead of going and fighting all that and going and making it worse over time, and I thought about what would my mom want me to do and what would my dad advise me to do. And at the end of the day, my peace wasn't worth the conflict. Do you see what I'm saying? And this is something I think to consider. And I guess I'm sharing a personal story about this because there may be situations in your life where you could stand to benefit with this new moon or whatnot, where you might have to compromise your integrity to achieve that luxury, to achieve that abundance, to achieve that overflowing cup. And it's just not worth it. There's so many different ways to have wealth. In my estimation, my peace of mind, my centeredness, the love that I have around me, the relationships that I've built, the time that I value, the wisdom that I've gained through the quest for knowledge, all of that makes me extraordinarily wealthy in ways that my family on that side of the family couldn't even imagine or begin to engage with, because they don't measure wealth in that way. And to me, that was the most impoverished type of experience that I can imagine, just the miserableness of it. So this is something to consider as we move into a season that is associated, I think, with generosity, that has been twisted into a season of capitalistic greed, and has been twisted into a season that we feel like we have almost an obligation to give in a certain way to people. And I'm here to tell you, and this is not anything new. This is something we've learned in, like, Charles Dickens, for example, Christmas Carol, things of that nature. There are so many ways to fill our hearts with abundance. And just all of you being here in the chat here today, this is an abundance of attention. This is an abundance of eyes, of sharing with one another. I think it's really an important thing to remember as we come into the holiday season, and especially in Sagittarius season, where Jupiter is, think of that ghost of Christmas past, I guess you could say. Or was it present or past? I can't remember. Whichever one's the great Jupiterian cornucopia type of figure. And what Dickens is trying to teach us is not to be miserly, not to hang on to things to the point where we lose the other types of wealth, not to hang on to money to the point where we're losing those other types of wealth, like relationships, like time, like health, all of those things. So these are great reminders at this new moon to think about how we're creating balanced abundance and wealth in our life in a way that uplifts others, that in a way that we can share with others, and not in a way that exploits others. And I do think that this is a really important thing to talk about moving forward, because we are at the cusp of a transitory period in time where the economic system that we live in doesn't work for everyone anymore. Or if it ever did, okay, let's be real about it, but it's getting harder and harder for it to work for anybody but the very, top 1%. And it's going to force us to think about different means of exchange and different ways of creating value for one another. And I think that's something worth putting our heads together with as a community moving forward. Steven says, I love how you incorporate tarot with astrology, combining the right and left brain modalities. I appreciate that, Steven. Yeah, I love balance. I love taking a little of this and a little of that, a potpourri, if you will, of different systems, and being able to see how the synchronicities between it. So appreciate that, friend. And I really try to incorporate all of those things in a way that it feels meaningful and practical and useful. Cosmic Girl says, as an Aries rising and sun in the year of the tiger, I'm looking forward to the year of the Chinese horse and the universal year 1. That's a great point, Cosmic Girl, as we are going to be moving away from a 9-year, right? With 2025, if you add up all the digits, it adds up to a 9 numerological year, which is the end of a cycle, letting go of old forms. So we're going to be moving into this universal 1 year where things are new, while Saturn and Neptune are in Aries. That's a cool synchronicity and blending of systems too, is we've got this, we're all going to be feeling this initiatory energy. Javier says, will the retrograde affect this? And I'm assuming the retrograde of Jupiter. I think I'm a little bit far behind in the chat here. I think that the retrograde of Jupiter in this new moon, it may make it a little bit delayed, like I guess I would say, as far as the ability to create abundance. Now, Jupiter stations direct on March 10th. So we've got some time to figure it out. We've got time to figure out ways to create abundance that is able to uplift others rather than, take away from them. Yeah, the universal 1 year, Marietta, adding up the digits of the calendar year, right? We've got, people are on it here. Yeah, so 2026, 2 + 2 + 6 is 1. Yep. Steve says, also looking forward to the year of the house. I have our horse. I have the sun in Pisces, born in the year of the dog. Also looking forward to my 9th house perfection year. Love it. Love it for you, friend. Stellar Rendition is here. It says Cancer and Sagittarius are contra antitia to each other. So there is a secret backdoor way of communicating between the two. Very good point, Stellar Rendition. Our Stellar Rendition. Antitia and contra antitia refer to signs that are on, I believe, equidistant on both the equinoxes and the solstices. So this kind of like mirroring of signs. So a good point there. And maybe, yes, maybe the way to have these particular signs communicating with one another. I love it. Okay, independence, yes. Leanne says, that reminds me, last week I said I read somewhere that in Vedic astrology, there's a yoga where the ruler of a difficult house placed in another difficult house creates a reversal effect. I did some digging, and it's called Viparita Raja Yoga. Yeah, I think this is a very similar concept to what we were talking about with the planet being in its exaltation retrograde, maybe having difficulty. But if a planet's in its fall in retrograde, having it's kind of a secret benefit. The book I would recommend, Leanne, if you want to dig deeper into this, is Freedom Cole's Science of Light, Volume 1 and 2, An Introduction to Vedic Astrology. He's a very good teacher. You can see him on the back here. I have both of these volumes. I've only just started dipping my toe into that area, so I don't claim to be an expert in that system whatsoever. I'm just starting to learn some of the vocabulary around it. I wanted to feel really solid in my Hellenistic astrology vocabulary and system before I completely shifted systems. I love being able to add new things in. I will say this, sometimes I feel like I get to a point of diminishing returns with adding a million techniques in as well too, and I have to figure out the balance between that. A friend of the show, Devin, sent me this really interesting meditation on a different way of measuring the days of the week based on planetary, like a lunar calendar. And I read this right as I was waking up. Sorry, Devin. I wasn't able to engage with it in the detail it deserved, but I read through this as I was waking up. And my first thought was like, man, does that mean I have to change to a whole new system of devotional practice, of how I honor the planets each week? And can I do that? Like, do I have to do that, really? So there's a resistance, right, when we get into using the things that work. My initial response to him, which I think is a legit one, but it was also like yeah, this is interesting. The first response is that I do think that when we have conflicting things within divinatory systems, the concept of entrainment is really important. Like, what system are we entraining our brains, or we're entraining the divine to be able to speak to us through? I've entrained myself with the language of astrology, first with modern and psychological astrology, and then through the language of traditional astrology. I've also entrained myself to the language of the Decans specifically, and the tarot. And I've also entrained myself to the language of animal spirits and numbers, like numerological things. Now, how many things do we have to entrain to get to the core of the truth that we're trying to find? It's going to be a different answer for different people. There are some people that are very much economy of craft, and they say, well, I've entrained myself to this system. It gives me the information I need, and I can just go about my merry business. I just have to be consistent with it. There are other people that always want to bring in new ways of viewing things and new lenses. I tend to be a kind of a mix between those two. I like using my techniques consistently over and over again, but I'm also curious when a new thing comes up that can give me more accuracy. But sometimes I feel overwhelmed too. And when I was starting into Hellenistic astrology, I think I bought these books, the Science of Light books, and I was like, I don't know if I can learn both of these systems simultaneously. So I'm just getting to the point now where I feel confident enough with my Hellenistic work that I can begin the process of engaging with that. But great books, though. Highly recommend. Let's see. Jupiter. That makes sense. Good. I'm going to check out that book. Thank you, Spencer. All right, Leanne. Appreciate you. I'm always happy to give a book recommendation. I love recommending books. Okay, so we've talked about the third decan of Cancer. I've given a lengthy personal anecdote that hopefully was helpful for you. There is another part of the Jupiter story with this new moon that I think is also relevant, and that is Jupiter in malefic enclosure. So we have had Jupiter in malefic enclosure from December the 5th to January 7th. Oops. I'm trying to get something to write on here. There we go. So if you look at where Jupiter is at here at 22 Cancer, you can see that Mars, now that it's in Capricorn, is casting its ray on one side of Jupiter, and Saturn is casting its ray on the other side. So this 3-degree Capricorn ray is cast to 3 degrees of Cancer by opposition. The 25-degree ray of Saturn is cast to 25-degree Cancer via the trine. It's enclosing Jupiter, and there is not necessarily a traditional planet that is breaking that up by a traditional aspect. Yes, maybe we have the counter Antisha. I don't know if that aspect is enough to break up the malefic enclosure. Let's assume for right now that it's not. This is another reason that our abundance feeling may be a little bit stuck for a little while. We're asking questions because it's retrograde. We're asking questions on how we can expand our abundance in a way that doesn't harm others. But also we have this pressure to do so. We have Mars hanging out in this new moon chart in Capricorn 1. Its exaltation, by the way, which is very powerful, really powerful place for Mars to be in. That decan of Capricorn is one where we see associated with the 2 of Pentacles, where a figure is, I'll find the card for you, is juggling these 2 discs, these solar discs. It's a solar, and it's a Jupiter decan, excuse me. It's a Jupiter decan, but it has a solar connotation because it has a lemniscate in it. See that figure 8 period? I don't know if I can get it to focus here. So there's the lemniscate, which is really what it is it's the infinity sign, but it is the infinity of the sun to be able to go through these different kind of experiences. Why did I lost my background? Weird thing. That's weird. Oh, well. So what we see with the lemniscate is the path that the sun takes over the course of a year. And it talks about reversals, the Lord of change that we have here, right? And at the solstices, the sun changes its declination direction. At the winter solstice, the sun starts rising every day. It starts rising higher in the sky each day, I should say. So a reversal, right, of the darkening of the light, a return of the light, I guess you could say. And so Mars is going to be putting a lot of our energy into saying, what's the new land that we want to develop? What's the new goal that we want to tangibly plant our seed in? What's the pros and cons of this particular way of doing something, this particular place, this particular business model, this particular whatever? So there's pressure that we feel on that, on our ability to manifest abundance and generosity, etc. Saturn is also putting a little bit of pressure, not as difficult of a pressure, but one via trine, where it says, what are you willing to do? What are you willing to sacrifice? What dream do you want to achieve? Is it meaningful? And are you willing to create structure to be able to achieve that dream? What are you willing to sacrifice for it? So those are kind of the things that are putting a lot of pressure on Jupiter, the host of this new moon, moving forward. Okay. K-Wow's here. What's up, K-Wow? Nice to see you. Hi, Spencer. Hi, chat. Nice to see you. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Nice to see you in the chat here. Love that you're hanging out with us. Do me a favor, friends. I'm going to take a little mini stretch here. Please like this video. Subscribe to the channel. If you're of means and you want to help support us through a transition time, there's a super chat button. If you want to support us on Buy Me Coffee, that's sort of like a patron-like website as well. I would also say a cool thing that you could do right now is go over and support Tanya at Third Coast Mojo. She's got all sorts of cool stuff. Being able to support in that way will help you to get something cool, some magical item that you could either give as a gift or for your own good, or your own goodness and needs. It would also, I think, help boost her confidence right now in a time where a lot of changes are happening. So that's a great way to support the channel right now. Also, if you want to reach out for a reading or if you want to learn astrology, there's all sorts of stuff at Spencer Michaud Astrology as well. Okay, but the easiest thing and something that helps get our message out. Like the video, share it with your friends, hype it up on YouTube. All right, so we've talked a little bit about that Jupiter in malefic enclosure. That ends on the 7th, and I believe that ends, that ends when, let me see. I have it written down. It ends when Venus and Mars conjoin, because then Venus is casting its ray at 18 degrees of Capricorn in between the malefic enclosure. Okay, so hang in there. If you have difficult Jupiterian type of things going on, look at your Sagittarius topic and your Pisces topic and realize that there may be something that's held in check for a little bit, but ultimately I think good can come from it. And there could be some really good manifestations that start coming in March. So just hang in there and be patient, and have faith in the process. A couple other things that we're seeing. Here we have, so I'm going to put on the outside here. Here is a couple ways that this new moon could unfold, right? So we have the Jupiter malefic enclosure. We have the 20th, happy birthday, Tanya. We have the 20th, Mercury is at the south bending of the nodes. We talked about that earlier, but you can see here Mercury at about 11 to 12 degrees, squaring the nodes. So big turning point for mercurial significations, commerce, communication, exchanges, specifically related to the Gemini and Virgo area of your chart. That day, that 20th, is a big day. Sun's going to also be squared Neptune on that day. You could see the Sun at 29 Sagittarius squaring Neptune at 29 Pisces. Okay. Similar to the Mars square that we're experiencing, but with nuance, right? We might be having a confusion of identity around this period of time, rather than a confusion of which way to direct our energy like we have now with Mars and Neptune. Right. Really, the Mars-Neptune square is like, you want to move forward, you want to act on something, but you're just running through water, you're just trying to, everything feels confusing, and you got to kind of dry out a little bit first before you do that. But the Sun-Neptune square, that's more of a, what's my purpose? What's my guiding light? And you may need to really get clear about that, so that you're not taking action or trying to craft an identity that is based on unrealistic expectations. I think that it's good to dream, it's good to visualize, but you have to have one foot on the ground while you are reaching for the stars, I think, on some level. I think that's what helps us to be sort of almost like lightning rods, if we're thinking about it in Jupiter's language. Lightning rods, where we ground that bolt of lightning into the earth so that it doesn't just create chaos around us. Venus will also be out of bounds that day. So this is Venus in Sagittarius III going out of bounds on December 20th all the way until January 3rd. So this is another experience where we might start being attracted to things that are out of the ordinary. We might be trying new things artistically. Venus has sort of kind of very pure Venusian quality when it's out of bounds. Think of these very, innovative creators. Bjork is the first person that always comes to mind as a out of bounds Venus person, someone who's extraordinarily prolific, but in this very idiosyncratic way. So don't be afraid to just be yourself and to experiment a little bit. I would also caution you that making a lot of major relationship decisions and or purchase decisions while Venus is out of bounds could lead later to some sobering regrets. So just be careful about that in this holiday season as well. The first aspect that the moon is going to make on the 21st, this is happening as the sun is moving into Capricorn. I'll talk about that in a second. But the moon at 22 degrees of Capricorn is going to oppose Jupiter retrograde. So oftentimes the first aspect that the lunation makes, new or full moon, after it separates from 15 degrees, it starts to become visible again, talks about sort of the unfolding of the narrative of the moon. And in this case, it's going to be making its first aspect in the exile of the moon, Capricorn, right? A place where it's not that comfortable. We're going to be coming to the sobering reality that the terrain that we're in it's wintertime. It's mountainous. It's not necessarily a fertile spring garden. It's a cold, rocky winter landscape. And planting our seeds during the coldest, hardest, most difficult part of winter is not always the easiest thing to do. It's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take a lot of patience. It's going to take a lot of endurance. And that reality may be coming into conflict with our desire to do something in a way that does no harm, right? There may be some reality in nature that when we have some of these exchanges, if one animal is going to eat, the other is being eaten. Like that is a cold, hard reality that comes in nature. The beautiful thing is that it's a system that is self-perpetuating, and it's part of one whole ecosystem. But don't tell that to the rabbit that's getting eaten by the fox or the lynx. I mean, those are some of the things that we may feel as individuals, where we're like, oh my God, we feel like a prey animal, and vice versa. Like, so these are things, that hard questions that we might have to answer when the moon is making its first aspect opposite Jupiter retrograde. Marietta says, excuse my weirdness, I'm a bit insane, but why do we exclude 0 in numerology? Without 0, we wouldn't have 10. So I don't exclude 0. So for me, it would be 10. We don't necessarily exclude 0 in numerology, Marietta. I think that it's a long answer, but 0 is sort of like a divine number in numerology. It's sort of an amplifier. It's an amplification type of number. It is like the absence of divisions too. I don't know. There's a lot of different philosophical ways we can go about it. Yeah, a longer discussion that we might have to have another time, but a good question. Books I can recommend. I always love recommending books. Marietta, my favorite numerology book is by Dusty Bunker, and it's called Numerology and the Divine Triangle. And it was actually my first introduction to the Decans, because they talk about the tarot and the Decans in that as well. I also like Hans Decode's numerology books. So that book, and also the Divine Triangle book by Dusty Bunker, great places to start. There may be some other really good ones out there. Those were just ones that really resonated with me when I was learning that system. Okay, let's keep going. Now on the 21st, we also have Venus making a square with Saturn. So you can see here about 25 degrees of Sagittarius and Pisces. Now this is really fascinating to me. We talked about this a little bit in the Astrology of December, but look what starts happening when we have these two planets making aspects to Saturn. So here now we have Venus on casting its ray at 26 degrees of Sagittarius to 26 degrees of Pisces on one side of Saturn, and we have Jupiter casting its ray on the other side. So not only are we having a malefic enclosure of Jupiter, but we have Saturn being benefically enclosed for at least 3 to 4 days, potentially longer. I talked about it more in the Astrology of December. There's a little bit of ambiguity in my mind about when it's being broken up, whether it's being broken up by Venus or Mercury, but you at least get 3 or 4 days of it. And this might be something where, yes, Jupiter significations are held in check, that they're feeling a lot of pressure, but the Saturn ones are really supported. So you may be able to start bringing structure to your dreams around the 21st through the 24th or 25th or so. And that could be really positive. They could have a lot of help with that. You could have a lot of support from the universe for kind of Saturning all of those ambiguous visualizations. One thing that I think I've been thinking about doing, as we move into a new kind of cycle. Vision boarding. You know, I know it's cliche, but I think that being able to see what we want to create and be reminded of it, especially if we have some neurodivergence, where sometimes with neurodivergence or ADHD, we have object impermanence. And when we don't see what we want in our life, it's hard to connect with it. So having a visual reminder of what you want to create in your life could be extremely powerful. And I think that this benefic enclosure of Saturn is actually an awesome vision boarding type of time period, especially because it's the winter solstice. I mean, look at this. We've got the sun in Capricorn 1. And that to me is the perfect time to set New Year's resolutions, not January 1st. No, when the sun moves into Capricorn, because you're weighing the pros and cons of all the different things that you want to achieve in the year ahead and starting to think what's possible, what isn't, juggling all these different possibilities. That to me is when we make those types of positive resolutions. So a powerful time that is supported by a benefic enclosure of Saturn. Okay. If we keep going, I'm going to keep going for a little bit here. I'm going to get you to the full moon in Cancer. How's that sound? Prepare you for the end of the year into the new year. Does that sound good? Check in with our chat here. Love It Moon says, my natal Jupiter is in Taurus, 11th house at 26 degrees, conjunct Algol. Oh boy. Venus is in my first in Cancer at 3 degrees, conjunct my ascendant with Mars, 6 North Node, 29 degrees of Gemini, lots of conjunctions. Saturn and Neptune will square those. Whoa. Yeah, Jupiter Algol. That's super fun. Anytime a planet is conjoining Algol, there's this kind of, I don't know, dark power, dark energy, protective power. I would say Jupiter on Algol is probably I wouldn't say the easiest one, but having a benefic placement on Algol, you might be able to do really good work being a protector. Like that's sort of the Algol energy is a strong feminine energy, but also a strong, like the protection of nature, the protection of something against, I don't know, some kind of traumatic event. So you might be able to do good work by being a strong protector for somebody or something, or your community, right? You might be a communal protector. So that might be one way to engage with that. But yeah, having those Saturn-Neptune squares and all that could be a lot to process for sure, friend. MCB is here. What's up? Says, I love your book recommendations. Thanks for that. Oh, I appreciate you, friend. I have so many books. I've been trying to sit down and engage with all of them. When I was in my 20s and early 30s, I had a little bit more time to just read all the time. And honestly, I had less distraction from just, I don't know, the internet, smartphones, all that stuff. And I'm really trying to get back to that because I've got so much material that I want to get through and just absorb and to share. I think that's the other thing too. I want to be able to share it with all of you and have it be well researched and just put more things into the cauldron and then have it come out in interesting ways, right? I love telling stories, and a lot of these books help me to become more fluent in telling the story in a more interesting way that can connect with more people through different languages, right? So we all are storytellers in some way. Marietta says, I was asking that because we were talking about year one, which is 2026, Spencer. I'm like, that equals 10. So I asked because I'm like, are they totally reducing the number through addition? There are different systems Trauma raised me about reducing numbers. Another cool book, if we're on book recommendations, Archetypal Tarot by Mary K. Greer is a cool one. And this one talks a lot about numerology and tarot, what your birth card reveals about your personality path and potential. They talk a lot about the calculations of this and when to reduce a number to a single digit and when to keep it. There is things in this book that talk about your personal year, and there are ones where they do keep the 0 because the 10 card is the Wheel of Fortune and the 1 card is the Magician, and there's a difference between those. So lots of different resources for that, and sometimes people will have slightly different ways of calculating it. Me too. Spencer recommends a book. My brain, write that down. Write that down. I love it. I'm the same way, friends. If someone recommends a book to me, it's over. I got to get it. So I appreciate that I'm continuing that cycle. Great. Thanks to give us time. Perfect time for manifestation. I love it. I love it. Love it. Moon says Saturn and Neptune transiting into Aries will square my first house. I'm having a serious purging of my house and attic right now for a month so far, nonstop. Oh, from your mouth to the divine's ears. Love it, Moon. I am so looking forward to purging my house of clutter and reorganizing, moving ahead and clearing up some good energy and some good feng shui and some good qi. Really, I think a very powerful tool when we feel a little bit helpless in regards to external circumstances. The one really, really powerful manifesting tool is organizing and cleaning your space. You know, if you've gone through something really challenging, or if you feel like, you know, society's too big to make a change, well, make a change in your environment. Clean one tiny little drawer. Organize one shelf. Don't feel like you have to do it all at once. Pick one corner of one room and just put that in order. And it just snowballs into this amazing supernova of energy. So really, really important, and I love to hear it. Katie Loves Spink is here. That's a fun name. I'm a frequent listener on Apple Podcasts, but this is my first time popping into the live. Love your work, Spencer. Well, thank you, Katie. I love Katie Loves Pink. I got it, Katie. I was like, what is Spink? That sounds a little suggestive, but thank you, Katie, for being here. And love that you're joining us from Apple Podcasts, because we are on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on all these different places you can find podcasts, SoundCloud. But yeah, if you have a chance, Katie, leave a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts, which helps us to reach more people in that forum as well. And if all of you are listening on the podcast side, it really helps when we get those 5-star reviews over there. So appreciate you being here, friend. And let me know if you have any questions. Love It Moon says, I bought myself tongue drums and koshi chimes. There you go. Good. I love it. Okay. So a couple more things. Javier says, I've been reading the Daily Bread and studying some passages. It helps me when I'm going through dark days. There you go. Me too. Leanne says, my Nan's mantra was tidy shelf, tidy mind. Absolutely. As above, so below. As within, so without. Tidy up your space. You clear up the clutter in your head. You know, it's great. Especially, and Leanne, I think you shared your chart last. Speaking of memory, I remember that you are a Gemini sun, if I'm not mistaken. And as a fellow Gemini Venus, clearing out some of that mental clutter through taking care of our space can be really liberating, right? So yeah, good recommendation. We got to follow your Nan's mantra there for sure. Okay, so a couple of things. Let's get to this full moon. On the 24th, Christmas Eve, we have Venus squaring Neptune and Venus moving into Capricorn. Okay, so one potential breaking of the benefic enclosure of Saturn. The ambiguity around it is feeling like, well, are we still getting the benefic enclosure with Venus casting its ray on the other side of Saturn? I don't know. Does it cross sign boundaries would be my question, right? Because it would still be doing that in that regard. Actually, if I'm looking at it now, yeah, it would be still. I was thinking like, oh no, that's not right. But if we look at Venus here, see how it's casting its ray over here, and then Jupiter is casting its ray on the other side. The question is, does it cross sound boundaries? If it doesn't, then this would be the end of the benefic enclosure. If it does, then we'd have to wait for Mercury to make the, I believe, to cast its ray at 22 degrees to break up the Jupiter one. But that's very technical. Venus in Capricorn, getting ready for its cazimi in January, right? You can see that the Venus and Mars are both getting very close to the sun. That period of time between January 6th and January 9th is when both of those planets are going to cazimi in the second 10-degree section of Capricorn. So we're getting close to a point where we've got a powerful, powerful renewal for building ornate structures. So we'll be talking about that in live streams ahead, but just keep that in your mind. First week of January, 6th through the 9th, really powerful renewal for for Venus and for Mars. On the 25th, Mercury goes under the beams of the sun at 19 degrees of Sagittarius. Okay, so here we see Venus. Oh, geez. I think you could tell when I'm starting to get tired because I'm starting to say the wrong things. But Mercury is going to be going within that 15 degrees of the sun, and it is going to be becoming invisible. So, maybe visiting Olympus in this case rather than visiting the underworld when Mercury is retrograde into the beams. So keep your eyes and ears open for messages that come to you from outside of yourself, maybe divine intervention, ideas that come from various sources that you wouldn't normally consider. With Mercury going under the beams, Mercury is going to be renewed in the heart of the sun later on, and I believe in the end of January as well. So we'll prepare for that. Then we get to our first quarter moon, right? We got our first quarter moon on the 27th. And here we have the 6 degree, let's get it exact. Excuse me. So 6 degrees of Aries, right? And we have the sun moving through an area of the zodiac where we're trying to figure out the laws of the land. What new projects do we want to start? What are the advantages and disadvantages of this material structure we want to build? And with the moon in Aries 1, we have to take that risk, right? Capricorn is a little bit conservative on some level, even though it is an initiator of new material processes. Sometimes it likes to do things in a way that guarantees success. Aries is not necessarily like that. Aries says, you got to take the leap, and who cares if there's collateral damage? You know, it's this kind of like speed versus slowing down, the tortoise versus the hare type of experience there. So you may need to take a risk to build your new material structure moving forward. Mercury goes out of bounds on the 28th, the day after. So this is that period where we're coming closer to having 4 planets out of bounds, with the moon going out of bounds the next day, right? So Mercury out of bounds, and then Mercury squaring Saturn on the 30th. This is Mercury squared Saturn. I could see unfolding like this. Mercury's out of bounds in Sagittarius. We might be feeling like making statements that we would normally not make, that are based on our belief systems, that are based on something that's very meaningful to us. But we have to be careful that we don't just fire off an opinion in a situation that would call for gathering more information or asking questions. And if Mercury is out of bounds and running straight into a square with Saturn, it might just be kind of like the reality check. Like, you might think that you know something, but somebody might say, that's not how it is. And it might be a force that's greater than your belief, right? It may be that like sobering reality check with a Mercury square Saturn after Mercury goes out of bounds. So just be careful about making declarative statements. Stay curious. There could be difficult, like sobering conversations that happen around this period of time. And the moon goes out of bounds, so that could also add to the emotionality of it. And now here's some new territory we haven't explored yet quite. We've got Mercury squaring Neptune on the 1st of January. Okay, so Happy New Year. Mercury square. Oh my God. On a holiday that's associated with excess and drinking and inebriation, Mercury squaring Neptune on that day. Just be real careful. Be real careful about overdoing it. Neptune is a planet that's associated with like addiction, with like these kind of experiences of merging with the divine source, but maybe through substances. So be careful around that in that period of time. I'm a cautious New Year's person. I don't like going out or going into a car because of that very fact, because of the fact that it is a drinking holiday, and there's a lot of drunk drivers on the road. So be just very, very careful if you do choose to go out and to celebrate in that way. Make sure you have a designated driver. Make sure that you are with people that you trust. And that would be my Mercury square Neptune kind of dad advice, I guess, right? Or just stay in and go to bed whenever you feel like it. Like nobody fucking cares anyway. That's what I do. I'm like, oh, is the ball dropping? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay. It's great. Partially for this reason, my astrological new year, one of the points is the winter solstice. I've already celebrated that solstice return. So to me, that arbitrary flipping of the what is it, the Gregorian calendar, is not as important to me. And I understand the symbolic part of it numerologically, I guess you could say, but just celebrate responsibly if you can. That brings us to that full moon of this cycle, right? So here's the full moon, and I'll put it on the chart here. Whoops. Where did it go? That's not what I wanted. There it is, January 3rd, full moon in Cancer, second deck in Cancer. Moon in its own domicile. So moon has access to a lot of its resources. It's making an application to that Jupiter, so that could be fortunate. Mars is, almost Cazimi. Venus is almost Cazimi. This is one where we might just have to balance out some of the ambition that we feel with the Capricorn 2 sun with the needs of maybe our domestic situation with our family. Like that's the walled garden. So like, how do we put ourselves out into the world in an ambitious way, but also feel safe and protected? So I think those are the themes that we might be experiencing there. I would also say that we're going to do an entire live stream on this in the weeks ahead, probably in 2 weeks. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and I'll break it all down in great detail. And then one more thing. The Venus Cazimi, Mars Cazimi, you could see here, January 6th, here is Mars at 16 degrees of Capricorn, Venus at 16 Capricorn. I believe that the Venus Cazimi happens first, around 16 or 17. And then the Mars Cazimi happens at about 18 or 19, okay? But all within that second 10-degree section. So a really powerful time. Mercury will be there as well. Just a powerful time for setting ambitious intentions. Be careful not to be overly ambitious. All of these planets are going to oppose Jupiter. So this is something else to keep in mind, is a lot of our material designs might have to come into contact with, is this ethical? Is this in alignment with my higher purpose? Is this in alignment with my belief system? Those are going to be big questions that we're asking as well with that opposition to Jupiter retrograde. So that is what I've got for you for the astrology of this new moon cycle. I'm just going to check in with the chat, and then we will do an I-Ching and an animal, a really fun animal for you this week. Okay, let me see here. Katie Loves Pink says, that username is from so long ago. Pisces Sun, Gemini Moon, Cancer Rising. Definitely feeling these transits recently, but I've been forcing myself to slow down. The Aries Mars is not helping. It's all a meditation, right? It's all practice. And with those placements, right, this is a lot of movement, right? A lot of desires towards rest, I'm guessing, too, with the 12th house moon ruling the chart, wanting to be in your own space. And Aries Mars, my daughter has Aries Mars. It can be a really good, powerful, positive thing. But as long as you're able to wield it responsibly, right? Slowing down is never a bad thing. Sometimes taking a risk is a really good thing too. Sometimes we need pioneers like you, Mars and Aries folks. As someone with a Mars and Virgo and a Taurus moon, it's not always for me. Like, it's just the risk taking that is, especially just witnessing my daughter just doing stuff like without thinking about it. But we need folks that do that and that are pioneers and that are tough and that are just going out there and fighting for the underdog. I think that's another thing that Mars and Aries can really do is fight for people that need a fighter. So I hope that it all will work out for you, friend. Javier says, no wonder you're helping me heal. Spencer, I got Chiron with Venus in the 7th, healing my Gemini sun. Oh, I love it, Javier. And I hope that you are finding some healing, one day at a time. We're all we all have struggles, whether we see them, whether they're visible. Everybody's got something that they're dealing with. So, I think just going out there and having some grace and trying to be helpful to one another and allow ourselves to be helped too. That's sometimes the best thing that you can do is allow people to help us. That's swallowing some of that pride that we have and allow people to help us in tough situations. Love It Moon says, my natal Venus and Mars will oppose Venus and Mars transit in January. Oh my gosh. I know, I hear you. So this Capricorn Cazimi stack up, it's all going to oppose my natal sun. So I feel you. I feel you is what I can say. I think that there's going to be some tough realities that we're going to have to face as squishy Cancerian people that just want to just love everyone all the time. And there's going to be some tough choices that we have to make just due to necessity. And I've been trying to prime everybody for maybe some changes on the channel. But again, I love that you're all here, and I want to keep the essence of the vibe that we have going. I'm very, very aware of it. And I guess what I will say about this, for all of you who are thinking about starting new things, just experiment. And some things that we'll try out as not only here at Spencer Michaud Astrology, Third Coast Mojo, some of it will just be an experiment, just seeing what's going to stick, throwing some stuff against the wall. And this might be what you have to do as a community here too, is try some things out. The first thing might not work. You might miss the mark a few times, but then you make adjustments and finally you find your rhythm and you find your routine and you find what does work. And but just be patient with yourself and with others. Be patient with us here too, because we're all just trying to figure it out, just like all of you. And especially when our stability is changing, we have to experiment with new things too. MCB says, I can't stay, but thank you for your work. Can't wait to listen to the full video. So much love to everyone. Appreciate you, friend. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Marietta says, oof, that's my weakness, because the way my Aquarius is situated in my chart, I'm never wrong. Sometimes I am, though. I hear you. I hear you. No one loves to be wrong, I like what Rob Hand says in his book, Horoscope Symbols, another classic. He says in his first few chapters, the introduction, I reserve the right to change my mind. I reserve the right to be wrong in the future. I love that. As a scholar, as a teacher, as an astrologer, I reserve the right to change my mind, because that means that we're doing the best we can with the knowledge we have in this moment. And we're allowing ourselves space to be wrong, quote unquote, with grace, and that's all we can do, right? If we're not wrong every once in a while, we're probably not taking enough of a risk. So there you go. Javier says, I quit drinking this year. Damn it. Thanks, universe, for more tests. That's what I'm going to do. Sleep. No harm done when you're sleeping. There you go. Congratulations on your sobriety. And I hope that it's one day at a time, right? These numerologies have been fired today. Trauma Raised Me says, I've been doing that right now, saying only what I want to serve my highest purpose and cutting the soul ties holding me back. It's freeing, but also sobering at the same time. The goal is to be the best me. I love it. My Cancer moon makes me very squishy. You and me both, friend. All right. Awesome comments today. Thank you so much for being so active in the chat. It's really great to be able to connect with you in that way and to have people return each week. It's just such an honor to be a guide in that regard, and to be able to have all of your voices. Appreciate all of you. So a couple things before we wrap for the day. We've got an I-Ching. Let's start with the I-Ching. And we have hexagram number 52. Keeping still, right? Talking about patience. And it's changing to hexagram 36, darkening of the light. Perfect for Sagittarius III, which is pretty much the darkest point of the year before the return of the light. So if hexagram 52, keeping still, it also is associated with mountains, restraint, being quiet, attaining inner peace, endurance, taking things one day at a time, Okay. The judgment in this says keeping still. He keeps his back still so that he no longer feels his body. He goes into his courtyard and does not see his people. No blame. Jack Balkin says, the Book of Changes teaches that you must make both your activity and your rest in harmony with the needs of the situation and the demands of the time. Success comes not only from moving forward at the right time, but also from remaining still when it is appropriate to do so. The theme of this hexagram is recognizing that the time has come to be still so that you can regain your balance and find peace. The text offers the metaphor of keeping the back still. The back represents the center of the body. Where the back goes, the body goes. So if the back remains still, the body will be still. The back is also the location of the spine. Hence, to make one's back still means to calm one's nerves and thus one's mind. When your mind is calm and your thoughts are orderly, it is as if you no longer feel your body. That is, you no longer feel the pain of demands pressing on you from the outside and the urgency of desires pressing on you from the inside. When you are angry and distressed, the world looks disordered and confused. But when you are perfectly calm, you see the world with greater clarity. Being still allows you to see beyond the surface turbulence of life and petty struggles of the day and look more deeply into the nature of things. Beyond the chaos and commotion lie deeper truths. Whoa, I love Jack Balkin, my favorite. All right, a couple changing lines. Line number 1 says he keeps his toes still. No blame. It is beneficial to continually be persevering. To keep the toes still means not to move. Before taking action, it is best to assess the situation objectively and with a clear head. Once you begin, you may become invested in your current course of action, and then you will not be able to judge matters so dispassionately. Stop and deliberate when you are not yet committed and not yet entangled in self-serving desires and motivations. If you can approach things free from selfishness and self-delusion, you will find the right path. I mean, self-delusion is a Neptunian word, right? So we got to be careful to become objective before we take action. Remember, this is the time before the active part. The top line says magnanimous, good fortune. Emotional stability is the secret to success. Remain centered, and nothing can cause you to lose your balance. The great lesson of this line is that peace comes to those who are at peace, while conflict seems ever to attach itself to those who are conflicted inside. The truth is revealed to those who are at rest, and so are true within, while deception hounds those who have no rest and so deceive themselves. When your composure is so complete that it affects everything you say and do, your good fortune is assured. No matter what endeavor you pursue, your tranquility and self-possession will stand you in good stead. There you go. We've always talked about sort of the snow globe kind of energy, or the jar of dirt water, where if you keep shaking it, you're not going to be able to see clearly through it, right? But if you let it rest, you let all that sediment settle, you let those thoughts settle and become quiet. I've been doing a lot of work with silence lately. I usually have started my day with a podcast, and while I'm doing other things, and I've been reading articles about the brain's inability to multitask, really, or just actually task switching. Now, I say this with the caveat because we are a podcast. Like, sometimes people are doing other things while listening to this podcast. So, you know, take it with a small grain of salt. If you want to paint, if you want to draw, if you want to walk, you can do all those things. Sometimes when I really do want to engage with a podcast, that's what I'm doing. I'm focused on that activity. I'm focused on that one particular thing. I like to listen to, I'm gonna give him a shout out here. There's a guy named Andy Herman that I love, and he's a Green Bay Packers podcast. I love the Green Bay Packers. It's something from my childhood that I connected with my family over. But he has a podcast every day, and I love listening to his insights. But this past week, I've been like, I need to wait to engage with this. I need to think my own thoughts and hear my own feelings before I engage with anybody else's narrative. So this might be a good exercise for keeping still. How can you start your day and be able to let yourself be a little bit bored. Let yourself hear all the sounds of nature around you, so that you might be amazed what starts bubbling up when we don't drown out the voices that we don't want to face internally. It can be really, really powerful. And I think sometimes just focusing on one specific task too can also be equally as powerful. So I think this is a good advice from this hexagram. It's changing to the hexagram 36, darkening of the light. Also translates to the crying pheasant, eclipse, hiding one's light, brilliance injured, censorship, keeping a low profile, hiding your feelings. Now, this is something where we are in the dark part of the year. We're not necessarily potentially ready to step out into the light, right? This hexagram says you may face unfavorable circumstances. You may encounter criticisms and oppositions. Your projects fail to prosper, or you have control over your life, lack confidence, or those who you have, there we go, or those who have control over your life lack confidence in you. Whatever the problem, there's little that you can do about it for the time being. You must wait out the bad times until things take a turn for the better. Because you are currently trapped in a hostile environment, the best strategy right now is to keep a low profile. You must hide your light. If you try to assert yourself, people who surround you will not be sympathetic and rebuff you. If you object to your treatment, people will not understand, and you may make things even worse for yourself. Instead of protesting, it is better to allow those in your environment to believe that you accept the situation. Someone may be jealous of you or resent you. You should not give them an opportunity to harm you. Do not be aggressive and do not call attention to yourself. This is no time to pick a fight. Conditions are not in your favor right now, and you do not have the resources to prevail. I would say that this is ringing the bell about Mars out of bounds. Not a great time to get into a conflict with somebody. Mars out of bounds could see both of you acting in ways out of anger that you normally wouldn't, and could lead to some really difficult outcomes. Jack goes on to say, nevertheless, during this difficult time, you must continue to have faith in yourself. Do not give up just because things are not going well. As the text says, in times of adversity, it is beneficial to remain steadfast and to persevere. It is a test of your will and your endurance. You must preserve your inner light, the still small voice within. Do not let the darkness on the outside extinguish the light on the inside, for then there will be nothing left of you when times improve. People and events will surely provoke you, but you must maintain your composure and your emotional compass. Do not let what others say and do cause you to lose heart. You cannot let their ignorance or bad judgment undermine your self-confidence. They only see a small part of the picture. Their values are not your values. And even though things seem rough right now, time has a way of turning present disadvantages into the seeds of later advantage. You will not be down forever. Okay, so this is a way it says, hey, this is the hard part of the year. We're waiting for the return of the light. We might have some confusion. We might not be able to take all the actions that we want to right away, but we can prepare ourselves for our Kairos moment, for the time when we are ready, when conditions are fertile to move forward. And that time is coming sooner than you think, okay? Now, I'm going to check in with the chat one more time. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Love It Moon. Appreciate you. Thank you so much, friend. Appreciate you and your generosity, and just really grateful that you're here and for the support. Let's see. That Archer holding the shot. Hugs to you, Spencer and Tanya, and to all the peeps here. Thank you, Stellar Rendition. Appreciate you, friend. Appreciate you. Let's see. Likewise, Spencer, on the silent moments. And yes, focusing on one task at a time. Mindfulness, absolutely. That's right. Thank you always for your wisdom, Spencer. Love it. Thank you again for the super chat. Marietta says, reminds me how the Bible says God hides under his wings and keeps us safe in times when we face danger. Yes, there you go. Tanya says, and Spencer, I'm schizophrenic. Please don't tell me to listen to the voices. Oh, Marietta, I'm sorry, friend. I'm currently fighting them and doing pretty good, actually. Those voices drown out the small, still voice. One day at a time, friend. And, you know, we have a number of people who have all sorts of different types of conditions here in the community. So you're not alone with that. And just wishing you the success in being able to manage and thrive with that as well. Big hugs for sure. Stellar Rendition says, I've been staring at the window a lot more than usual this fall. The quietness of nature, the birds, leaves, and trees is quiet in my 12th house time outside of meditation, which is different for me. Yeah, love it. I mean, I'm a daydreamer. This was one of my problems in school is nature had a lot of interest to me out the window, and the dreams and thoughts in my imagination. I was never really good at math in school because it just seemed so disconnected from meaning. I think what I just didn't have in school was a good math teacher that told me how it would be practical in my life. I always was very enraptured in like English class and art class, etc., even science, but math was hard and I just started daydreaming. But I do think that there's so much value in that ability to just get lost in our thoughts every once in a while. And in the daydream, you can come up with some really amazing stuff when you connect with that still small voice that Marietta is talking about, for sure. Yeah, Javier says, you got this. Marietta, tell them to F off unless they're nice. Yeah, there you go. You got this, Marietta. You got this, Javiera. All right, friends. One last symbol for us to guide us in this new moon. Now, this one was super fun. I've been doing a random number generator to pick animals from my books and bibliomancy. And it used to just like flip through. I just to go, and I would just be flipping to the same things a lot. Now it's a true randomization. And I've been getting a lot more mythological animals than I had before, because the mythological animals are at the very end of the book, and you don't always flip to the end of the book, right? So this is pretty fun. So here is the Kraken, right? Look at this thing. So this to me is the perfect Sagittarius new moon squaring Saturn and Neptune animal. Like, I just saw this and I was like, oh, okay, I get it, spirit. This is amazing. So the Kraken is this giant sea creature, this octopus, this Lovecraftian beast that can consume entire ships. And if you think about the journeying of Sagittarius, the desire to move and go great distances like on a ship, and then coming across this like huge force of oceanic nature. It's very Saturn, Neptune. I love it. I'm going to read to you from Animal Frequency by Melissa Alvarez. And the random number that I got was 355. So here is the Kraken on page 355. Kraken, in Scandinavian mythology, was a giant sea creature with a body so big, about a mile long, it looked like an island if it was floating near the surface. It had many long tentacles and fins, and its favorite pastime was wrapping its enormous tentacles over ships and sinking them into the sea. Kraken created a large whirlpool that sunk the ship, which sucked under anything that may have been floating on the sea's surface. It slept on the bottom of the sea in the very deep waters, but awakened to feed when a ship disturbed it. Legend says that only two existed, and they could not reproduce because they would need so much food they wouldn't survive as a species. Kraken symbolizes a solitary existence and being present but rarely seen. Remember, we talked about darkening of the light, eclipsed. This animal has a talent for abundance, ancient knowledge, bravery, courage, disguise, elusiveness, hiding in plain sight, hunting, manifestation, rest, self-reliance, spiritual awakening, strength, wealth, and wildness. There are challenges including aggression, awakening the monster, destructiveness, evoking fear, fierceness, lack of conscience. Loneliness is also a challenge. When the Kraken appears to you, it is a sign of upcoming abundance, plot twist, and an increase in wealth in all areas of your life. Kraken would trap fish by belching and releasing food into the water. This attracted other fish that would swim right into the Kraken's mouth where they'd be eaten. This is symbolic of manifestation and bringing what you desire to you. Kraken desired a meal, so it brought the fish to it. What do you desire? What are your goals and dreams? What can you do to bring the things that you want to you? Begin by practicing creative visualization and manifestation to create abundance in your life, right? We talked about that with these squares with Neptune, right? Kraken means to be brave and courageous in all that you do. Face situations head on instead of backing away from them. You are self-reliant, just like Kraken, and usually don't depend on anyone but yourself. Kraken urges you to access the ancient knowledge within you because it will lead to a spiritual awakening. Kraken means to make sure you're getting enough sleep and resting when you can. You tend to do a lot of things in your life and can get run down if you're not resting enough. This animal can assist you when you need to be in attendance but don't want to get too involved in the event. Kraken often hides right in plain sight, making others believe it is an island in the sea. When you remember, our first hexagram was keeping still, also aka the mountain, so lots of synchronicities here. When you want to remain unnoticed in any given circumstances, Kraken can help you. If you're bored or need a change of pace, Kraken can connect you to the wildness of nature. Take a walk or participate in any outdoor event to get in tune with the wild part of your inner spirit and link your energy to that of the land or sea. Kraken warns against stirring up or harboring any negativity inside yourself, awakening the monster, and instead urges you to maintain control while letting go of the negative emotions that can cause you to act out of character or cause fear in others. Kraken lends you its strength in any situation if you need it. Its frequency is an energy extremely hot in the center but chilled around the edges. When sleeping, it is completely still, but when awakened, it moves with speed and precision. It sounds like a very loud boom followed by splashes and a deep whirring noise. She goes on to say, imagine you're cruising across the ocean in a speedboat or sailboat like we have here. When the sky darkens and the waves get rough and turbulent, you look back from your place on the helm to see the Kraken rising up out of the water. A tentacle grabs the boat and lifts it up into the air, and the Kraken stares right at you. Its words boom like thunder when it speaks. You are seen and heard. All you want is yours if you'll ask for it. You yell over the din, thank you, please let me go. The turbulence stills, the storm clouds dissipate, and the Kraken disappears beneath the water, steadying the boat as it puts you back. That's fun. I've been watching this show recently, friends. It's called The Mighty Nine. I'm a D&D, sort of gaming nerd, and I love this show. It's based on the Critical Role. They had an original show called The Legend of Vox Machina, where these voice actors got together and did a D&D campaign, and then they turned it into an animated series, which is awesome. Not for kids, but is awesome. And the Mighty Nine is the newest version of this. And in that show, there is a Kraken-like monster that is sort of giving energy and power to one of the characters. And he often will boom these things like, learn, consume, as the character is learning how to trust himself and gain new abilities and powers. So maybe, it's fascinating. Maybe Kraken is leading us to new powers that we need to awaken. And how do we do that in a way where we don't awaken the darker sides of ourselves or the more negative parts of ourselves? When we're doing creative visualization, we need to visualize what we want rather than continually visualizing the worst case scenario. As a Virgo stellium type, I can sometimes tend to visualize like the worst case scenario to try to, mitigate it, fix it. But I'm trying to learn how to say, let me put my attention towards what I want, not what I fear. And if we do that as a collective, I think our ability to bring those things to us can be much more powerful. So really cool animal here, and really neat to see it pop up for us in the bibliomancy. We've got some nice comments coming in here. Okay. All right. The Kraken. Javier says, thank you so much, friend. Yes. All right. Also, a booze saying, never forget New Year's. Okay. Release the Kraken. Marietta says, there you go. I'm reminded of that show from the 80s. What was it? Oh my God. It was a Greek mythology, Clash of the Titans. There was the Kraken in that as well with Harry Hamlin. Great movie. Love it. Let's see. Well, it's no Cthulhu. It doesn't have bat wings. I do love octopi though. Quirky little squishies. There you go. LOL, plot twist, right? My favorite beast is the octopus. They're very intelligent. Well, this is the biggest octopus you can imagine, right? Yes, they are very cool. I did watch My Octopus Teacher on Netflix. Highly recommend if you haven't seen that show. Really great. There you go. Love it. There you go. Did anyone else watch the Game Awards last night? It was awesome. Love the orchestra. Uh, maybe it's okay to let our dark side out to help protect the light. I agree. I agree. As long the shadow work, right? We don't want to repress our darkness, but we want to make sure that we're kind of, I don't know, able to wield it appropriately. Would that be a true statement? I don't know. Anyway, friends, thank you so much for being here with me today. Appreciate all of you. Yes, brilliant documentary, My Teacher Octopus Teacher. Great, great, great show. Do me a favor. Take your time the next couple weeks. Don't push the rebirth. Go through the final stages of the letting go. Start visualizing what you want in your life. Don't be afraid of your own darkness, but don't be consumed by it either, I guess I will say. And recognize if things are really tough right now, everything's sort of at the low point, and the return is coming. All right, so hang in there until we get to that return of the light, and you're gonna start feeling better. And if you don't, just come to our live streams, and we'll try to build you up. When you're going through these changes, friends, it's really important to be kind to yourself. I think that the oftentimes we're the hardest on ourselves, and that beating up of ourselves causes us to lash out on others, especially with Mars out of bounds. So if we're taking care of ourselves, we're doing our self-care, we're sitting in our silence, we're allowing the voice of the divine to come through us and to listen to those small, still voices, our higher selves, it's so much easier to be kind out in the world. So hopefully we can practice that as a community and go through these changes together. So appreciate you. Thank you for all of your encouraging comments. Go support Tanya over at Third Coast Mojo. Appreciate you. Remember, she's got a sale going on right now. 25% off Third Coast Mojo. Go get your Christmas supplies over there. Go get your Christmas magic. All sorts of cool stuff. There's some new stuff coming pretty soon too. So make sure you're signed up on the newsletter. I think our friend Zeus Jupiter is going to be making an appearance pretty soon at Third Coast Mojo. So make sure that you are ready for that as well. So that's what I've got for you today, friends. Go find me on my social media at Spencer Michaud. Go find me over at spencermichaud.com. Sign up for a reading. But as we move into the holiday season, rest, hibernate, visualize, vision board, go into the depths, but don't drown. And we will get through it together. So that's what I've got for you today. Have a great weekend. Have a great week ahead. And we'll see you the next time, friends. Take care. Peace.